So let's just revisit it. I don't want a wedding, but I just want a ring and I want a ring and a nice dress.
I want a photo shoot in a nice dress and I want a ring. Is that too much to ask?
Then you get like a push present as well. So
No,
it just
you
keeps
don't.
stacking.
I don't know about this business of getting a push present. Like, your baby is your push present. Suck
Yeah.
it up.
I mean, the man does nothing, so. I guess should we get into it?
Except pay for the engagement ring, pay for the push present.
I mean, if I had
least you
like
can do.
vaginal tearing, I would probably want a push present to make me
Yeah,
feel
and the likelihood of you having that is high.
Not if you go out the sunroof, baby.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got.
Get the fuck out of me.
You feel alive, let's hit the dance floor. Don't work too hard, might break a backbone. Return to the Mac, the king is back though. Corvette and cash, I never lack those.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the No Brilliant Jerks podcast, a podcast that deconstructs consumer culture and media with no brilliant jerks allowed. Every Wednesday, you'll find us on all podcast streaming platforms, chatting about all things business, PR, and communications with a dash of shit talk, because who doesn't love that? In today's podcast, you're joined by me, Liv, Ty, and Nicole. How are we all?
Cannot wait to talk about politics today. I feel like
yes.
Ty and I are both super jazzed for this.
Yeah, I feel like Friday we're coming in ready for a bit of a debate.
Yes,
But
I've got
I
the
think-
hammer ready.
No, but I think the weekend's kind of delivered us something different. I feel like
Fully.
I'm weirdly optimistic with the outcome because I'm usually a conservative voter. But
Yeah, well, we'll have to
Yeah,
unwrap
but I'm
that.
with-
But yeah, so as everyone will probably know, and if you didn't, you're probably going to get a fine. Saturday, we had the election.
Woo!
And the results are through. Everyone knows who our new Prime Minister is. But before we get into all of that, shall we do our weekly segment of Dopes and Nopes?
Yeah, we can.
it is time for dopes and nopes.
So every week, we kick off each episode with our weekly Dopes and Nopes. So these are things that we think are awesome, dope,
Right.
that aren't, nope, trash. Throw it in the bin. All right, Nick, kick us off.
Thank you.
Well, okay.
I'm not prepared.
I like that you started with me.
Yeah, I'm like,
Knowing that I'm fully unprepared.
I'm just going to throw you under the bus. Let's go.
That's fine. I do actually have a dope and a nope. I'm going to start with my nope and just get it out of the way.
Oh, okay.
My nope is pedestrian TV's coverage of the election results.
Did they have one?
Well, kind of. They were reporting based on the reporting predominantly of the ABC. Now, on Sunday morning, I want to preface this by saying I'm a fan of pedestrian TV, usually. I feel like I'm maybe in their demographic or just a little bit older than their demographic. I'm 32. I feel like their audience is maybe like 15 to 30-year-olds who are traditionally like more progressive, like left-wing voters, voting
that's
for
fair.
Labor, voting for Greens.
Yeah.
But there was one particular post which Ty sent me on Sunday morning that I had a real problem with. And Ty, I think, is going to pull it up. Yeah, basically what's happened is they have called Scott Morrison, former Prime Minister of Australia, a see you next Tuesday.
That's not cool.
The reason why I have a problem with that specifically, and I know, like, I don't necessarily have as much of a problem with them being, like, noticeably politically biased.
Yep.
I don't really have a problem with that because they're not claiming to be like a news source or anything like that. But the reason why I have a problem with this is because of the language. I think even though they can say all day long that they are like a source for pop culture, they're like pop culture commentary, and this is like, I can understand where this is coming from. Like, Scott Morrison is not probably the most likable person, particularly on this side of politics.
Yeah.
But when your demographic of viewers is treating you like a news source, like, this is where I would say probably a large portion of their audience is getting their news from, getting their political coverage from. I find it problematic that that's how we're introducing young people to the political discourse,
Yeah.
by using language like that to describe people that we disagree with on the other side of politics.
Very good point.
And I think that people are over it as well. I mean,
Yeah.
if this election and the results of this election have shown us anything, it's that people don't want that super partisan, really divisive language and sentiment in politics anymore. I think they're over it. And I think that this is such a poor way of introducing people to the way that we should be talking to people we disagree with. We can have a respectful conversation all day, every way,
Right.
all day, every day. There's a way to do that. And I don't think, I think this is not it.
This is
It's not it.
perpetuating the problem, right?
Yeah.
It's just, when I sent this to you, I expected that, and I was just like, I think I sent it to you and I said, pedestrians going hard tonight. And I was like,
hard.
and I was actually interested to see what your response was. And he said, I've totally agree. It's kind of, it's like, it's kind of pathetic.
Yeah, but it's also
a bit
quite
gross.
interesting to see the people, like, there's obviously people that agree with the wording as well. Like, look, there's heaps of people being tagged in it, liking it, hashtag bye, see you next Tuesday.
But then, shoes on the other foot. Like, can you imagine if, as you said,
this is what I said.
Yeah, the young liberals posted a photo and I was showing the other foot and said, "See you later." If Albo lost his seat, there'd be talking about it in Parliament the next week. There'd be people losing their jobs. It's just
I just don't think it's appropriate for a news source to be. I mean, I know they're not traditional news, but I still think they have to accept a degree of responsibility that people are getting their news from them, particularly young people who are learning how to be voters, learning how to be active members of a democracy. This is not the way we do it in Australia.
No.
You know, I don't want us to go, and I think the majority of Australians don't want us to go the route that the USA is in now, where you cannot see eye to eye with somebody who votes differently from you. That's not who we are as a country, and I just don't think this missed the mark for me. So it's my note.
I even saw someone comment on this saying, "Oh, it looks like the pedestrian crew have gone too deep in the election drinking game," and that was one of the comments on this. So I was just like, "Yeah, maybe the reporters on the night had too many shots on the job, and this was the outcome." But their tone carried through of this, and fair enough. I think there's satire, and then there's like this
one I'm not mad at.
but when this started, this was the start. I was like, oh, okay, here's a bit of comedy, ha 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 ha, and then it just continued.
Yeah,
and I was just like, all right, well, it's kind of just a bit sad. And even then we got to the poor old Sharma, where we.
I mean, they're obviously having fun, and pedestrian TV does
like the human yawn, Dave Sharma. Like, come on, poor guy. These people have families.
And I feel like, obviously when you're a politician, you open yourself up to a degree of ridicule when you come into the public sphere.
But if this was spell check, like it's an individual with an opinion, sure, but like, you're pretty much a news platform, so
All right. Great nope. What's your dope then?
Okay, so my dope is a little bit conceptual, a little bit esoteric. My dope is single mums, because Anthony Albanese, now Prime Minister of the country, was raised by a single mum.
nice.
We love that
fun fact.
for her. I was also raised by a single mum. It's hard, and I think it's like a cool testament to how badass single parents are.
Yeah.
That, she's gone from living in housing commission to having a son who is the Prime Minister of the country.
Wow.
single mums.
That's so
awesome.
good.
So,
Yeah.
shout out Mama Albanese.
How good. Should be very proud right now. Wow.
Yeah, dope.
Dope. All right, Ty, what's your dope or nope? What are you going to start us off with?
My dope is actually I'm not sure if this is dope or nope. So Burger King is presenting.
No, this is dope.
This dope?
This is
I think
dope.
it's dope. Yeah.
I'm hogging the screen.
I love it.
I know you guys don't have screens, but
No.
like maybe if you have a bit more initiative and plug in before I do, you'll get to use it.
We can't reach it.
Check this out. Introducing the Pregnancy Whopper.
Is that ice cream?
Yeah.
And pickles.
So
You might feel differently when you're pregnant one day.
So pregnancy craving, Whoppers.
So Burger King is making burgers.
Based on research of what the most craved foods are during pregnancy cravings, Burger King, survey of expectant mothers in Germany found that pregnancy cravings are not a myth, with 58 of the respondents saying they are familiar with the phenomenon. So where do we go?
How cool. Sweet to salty foods.
So they're putting chocolate cake on a Whopper.
So the pickles is obviously
I've heard
a
that.
pregnancy craving. So
don't know.
I think it's pickles, whipped cream,
Ugh.
tomato, onion, and beef patty.
That is
Over here we have your traditional Whopper with a side of strawberry ice cream scoops. And this one, I believe,
That's a
is...
chicken nugget one.
I think that's a fish patty, so beef and fish.
No, I don't know. I mean, I love the representation, but I'm not eating anything off that menu.
I mean, you could
saying
down
that-
the track though.
Yeah.
If
Maybe
you ever,
that's
If you ever
true.
become a mum, yeah.
Saying that, V, when she was pregnant, she didn't have, like... She was funny. She didn't have pregnancy cravings. She just ate more of her favourite food. So she just lived on spag bog, like, pretty much for 9 months.
Does
Well, that's
Bowie
gonna
like
be
spag
me.
bowl?
Yeah, kind of. He's a weirdo. He just likes marshmallows. My kid is pretty much built of marshmallows.
And sugar.
Yeah, he's pretty much a Michelin man.
I get
In the
that.
making.
Marshmallows are yummy.
Yeah. So we got to the point now, if I come home from the coffee shop in the morning without marshmallows,
He's angry.
It's tantrum time.
it's not worth the risk. Yeah. Oh, and
Yikes.
he likes toast with butter and honey.
Oh,
That's
But-
cute.
cute.
So,
That's cool. That's
introducing the pregnancy
dope.
whopper. It is
Nice.
dope. But then again, like, do we really want it? I don't know. We'll ask a doctor. Is this
I mean, it's obviously not yet every day, or is it? Like, you shouldn't be eating that, for every meal. But for
Yeah.
once in a while, I can get around that.
Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like
Balance.
mainstream non-pregnancy people will give that a crack too.
Yeah. But it's only at Burger King, so American.
I believe this is
German.
Germany. Yeah.
Oh, so they did it on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's fun PR.
Yeah.
That's really
It's
good PR.
purely
yeah,
what
it was
is.
mainly
Yeah.
probably a PR
Yeah.
stunt
So
too.
well campaigned, Burger King.
Yeah,
Totally.
Cool.
Nice
All
one,
right. And
Burger
what's
King.
your nope?
My note was also pedestrian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disappointed. Like I've enjoyed their platform. That I feel like they let themselves down there a bit. Like
Yeah.
I understand. Like nailing people across, having a bit of fun with it, but like you can't call a shit person a in the real world. Like
We'll just beep that out.
Yeah. But why can you do it with the outgoing PM on a public platform? Like it's
And you made a really good point that the guy's still in the game. Like Scott
Yeah.
Morrison's going to be the leader of the opposition now,
Yeah.
as far as we're aware. So, if he's still going to be a huge part of the political discourse, I don't think we should be introducing that kind of language.
It's not even the language. It's like the disrespect associated with it. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a disrespect for me. I know it's a bit extreme, but for democracy in general, like it's like regardless of who people are, what they stand for in that house, like I think we all still need to have a little bit of respect for the people there, just because of
What happened recently where someone was disrespectful to, was it the Queen or some other?
I think someone someone did something to Putin, remember, and that like 2 hours later, I think his security detail beat the shit out of them. Maybe we need to go back to that method.
Yeah, no, there was something. There was a
Surely
story.
there's a happy medium.
We'll just get the AFP to kick down the door.
I mean, there's been a bit of that going on lately,
Pedestrian
but
and
don't get me started.
maybe this journo needs just a good pistol whipping.
Surely there's a happy medium somewhere
we
between
can-
pistol whip and calling someone a C
somewhere in
next
the
Tuesday.
middle.
Yeah, but sometimes people don't realise how to just live in the middle till they're pistol whipped.
Okay, well, moving on.
It's a lukewarm take, but anyway, let us find.
So my dope for the week is the NBA and Hennessy, what would you call, mashup PR stunt that they did, where they put a floating basketball court in the Sydney Harbour, right? Do you have your source?
Sure,
Thank you. What a great PR stunt this was. So
I believe this is ongoing activation because I was bragging to Liv about it. I think I might be heading down here with a client actually and have a float and a shoot.
look how sick that is. So there's a literal like floating basketball court.
Yeah. So no, seriously, you jump on the yacht. This is the Star yacht, yeah?
Yeah.
So I think this is
Cool.
they're probably trying to
So it's celebrating its 75th anniversary season of the NBA. And yeah, floating basketball court. And then they had like the likes of Nick Kyrgios and other.
because Nick Kyrgios is a sick basketball player, if anyone didn't know.
I mean,
No.
I feel like he would be.
But
He's very athletic.
I think this is
No,
awesome.
but he does say, he's like, he does openly say, he goes, I like basketball more than tennis. I just play tennis for money.
Yeah, right.
Wow. But I thought that was sick to bring like Hennessy and NBA and then also the opportunity for the Star to be involved as well. Like what a good PR stunt. Like it was such a good activation. I think it was great to kick it
And
off.
I think considering a lot of the Stars high rollers don't like being seen walking into the casino at the moment, it probably gives them a nice little break.
It's a good way for them to stay, relevant while not drawing attention
Sure,
to that
yeah.
aspect
So
of
this
what's going
the
on.
new high rollers room, just this top deck.
It looks
and you get
amazing.
airlifted in and out directly.
Yeah, but how cool. I think
so
Adidas did another campaign recently as well.
That was up in the north with Steph Claire Smith and some of those. But that was more of an eco spin, wasn't it?
Tennis court.
I think that whole tennis court was built from like
renewable plastics or something.
Recycled plastic that they
that's
pulled out of the
cool.
ocean and they built a tennis court and then put it back in the ocean.
Oh, yeah, right. Just
yeah.
set the whole thing afloat.
Yeah. And then I believe they donated it to someone afterwards because the tennis court, court could actually come out of the water. That was cool. And then they donated to a local school of some sort. Yeah.
Nice.
So that was really
That's
cool.
sick.
So
maybe
with this, can any punter just go and like book, or you've got to be invited?
You can't come on.
Oh, damn it.
No, it was an invitation event only on May 11, which included shooting competitions on the floating court.
No, so this is this floats around, I believe, for a duration of time, and so Hennessy, I believe, are inviting for the next few weeks their major, like obviously retail liquor accounts and wholesale liquor accounts out.
Oh, well, send pics.
Yeah, so
put them on the-
I've been honeypotted. So
Imagine if you end up in like a little dingy like bar instead of like out on this yacht.
Well, the chances are
Well, the way you're dressing now, they won't let you in. Jesus Christ.
I feel like
It's
this
just
is a
fashion.
vibe. But yeah.
I'm triggered.
Yeah. So for anyone wondering why I'm wearing this trash, Liv and I had an off-site visit with a client on Friday, and I saw this shirt and I said, "Hey, that's cool."
Disgusting.
And then she just shredded me on the spot. So
It was like
I bought it in protest,
$15
and here I am
from
today.
a $2 store.
And we doubled
$15
down.
from a $2
I
store.
hate those
I'm
type of
ripped off.
stores where it's like $2 and then like 15.
Yeah,
They just say it's $2.
And then Nick gave
Yeah.
me this gold chain just to finish my look.
Yeah, I like it.
Shocking.
You've got to pair a pimp chain with a shirt like that. You
Yeah.
have to.
Pimping ain't easy, but someone's got to do it.
Gosh. All right.
Ain't
well,
that the truth?
I'm going to get on to my nope. So this was in a recent episode of the Kardashians. Kendall Jenner's timeline doesn't add up, and it's seemingly because they don't want to mention the Astroworld tragedy. So basically in the episode, Kendall is seen in Miami and she can't attend a family event. She's with Hailey Bieber, but they had to reshoot that scene because in real life, Kendall and Kylie were actually at Astroworld when the tragedy happened. So obviously they had to refilm that and make a fake scenario that Kendall was in Miami. So
That's shady as.
yeah, that's my nope. So yeah, Astroworld, like the youngest victim was just like 9 years old and hundreds more were injured in the event, which was in Houston.
I heard someone suing Travis Scott now because she had a miscarriage as a result of going as well.
Whoa.
But then also, like, do you really go into a mosh pit when you're pregnant? Like,
Yeah.
I understand if you died as a result, that's hard.
Oh,
But-
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, you probably not precluded, not a doctor, obviously, but are you precluded from going to a festival and like going into a mosh pit for being pregnant? I
It's
don't know.
common sense. It's like the same. It's like you don't go into like a BJJ ring when you're pregnant and have a throwdown. Like,
To be fair, like you would also expect that there would be like appropriate security and like appropriate crowd control.
Fair call.
So, you know.
context.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's better that they avoided obviously bringing it up to protect themselves or you
No,
reckon
that's weird.
full transparency. Like it happens.
transparency.
Like,
I think-
don't cut it out.
I think
All
we're talking
day.
about this with politics too. It's like the assumption that Gen Pop, being general public, are too stupid to see what's in front of them. It just it always ends poorly.
Yeah, I always think like wherever possible, it's always better to comment on a situation rather than not commenting
Avoid
because
and
that
pretend that
makes
it
you look
didn't
dodgy
happen.
as.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the Kardashians.
We learned that when Barnaby Joyce had a side girl and she got pregnant. Like,
Yeah.
just tell the truth, bro.
Yeah, well, they had to
fess
eventually. They did that full sit-down interview and got paid like $40K for it.
40K, yeah.
I don't know. I just
The
probably
taxpayers
made
would
that
have
up,
cost
but-
more than that flying him to the bloody interview.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for our dopes and nopes.
Anyone
Shall
want a
we-
snack?
Snack. Oh yeah, we've got some. What do we have in front of us? Is it?
This caramel slice.
I'm going to
caramel
have
slice?
some
Do you-
after.
Do you
I'm
want
ready
to
to
do
rant
it
right now.
Eat it into the.
Is that, do people like that?
ASMR. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It makes me feel uncomfy,
Let's see. Liv's starting to blush.
but I think we could go viral with that video.
Will it?
Should we start an OnlyFans where you do that?
I'm clean.
In that outfit.
Yeah.
Only.
I'll lose the shirt if I get paid for it.
I don't know if that's like...
Can you put this on TikTok, see if it goes?
Yeah.
There's a slice.
Okay, all right. So getting into the
got the
topic for
heebie-jeebies.
today, we mentioned it briefly at the start of this episode. It is the post-election rundown. What did we call it before?
I called it the election post-mortem.
Ooh.
But
Okay, so Nick,
As in people have died.
do you want to get into basically
well,
an overview of what happened?
sure. I mean, I would say where there's death, there is also life. And I think what Ty and I are both feeling today is a renewed sense of confidence in the sentiment of the Australian people, right? So what we've seen is an overwhelming push towards independent members of parliament and minor parties. So when we say minor parties, we mean obviously everyone except the Labor Party and the LNP. So to me, that is super encouraging because it means that people have seen this little hamster wheel that we've been on for decades now. People feel like they're not being served by it, that the same old political bullshit that we're being served up year after year is no longer satisfying people. They are wanting something better and they're calling for it. And, you know, I don't think anybody is voting for these minor parties or these independents thinking that they're going to ever, you know, run the country one day. But what they want is people who are regulatory voices in Parliament who represent them and their personal interests on a much more personalized level than perhaps what's been, what's been offered by the two major parties. What do you think about that, Ty?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good opportunity for both of our major parties to kind of really sit back and reflect on the outcome. As we discussed earlier, I think it's a really good opportunity as well for the Liberal Party, while not in government, to actually really reassess where it stands too. There's been a lot of pushing and pulling there between the left and the right of the party. So I even was looking at the news this morning whether it's like, you know, is it time for the coalition to kind of part ways and represent, you know, the left and right of their sides separately.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, it's not working.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that kind of detracts from the Liberal Party's popularity is that people associate them with these really kind of hard right guys like Matt Canavan and Barnaby Joyce, who, you know, have less centrist stances on a lot of issues that are really important to people. They feel like the entire party is being held hostage by like this handful of highly conservative people.
It's Malcolm Turnbull's outcome, right?
Yeah, well, if you remember, Malcolm Turnbull, was basically calling for people to vote for independents and minor parties in protest, basically, of the way that both of the major parties have been failing to represent punters. And I was telling Ty earlier that this morning I was watching sort of a recap on YouTube of a Sky News panel on Sunday night where I can't remember who it was. I think it's a former Labor member was talking about how concerning it is for both parties that they were getting fewer number one preferences than they ever have before. And, you know, that it was going to spell trouble having all of these independents, like too many independents running around the halls of Parliament. I was like, it's you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are the problem.
Right?
Let's not blame the independents for getting elected. Let's blame you guys for dropping the ball so people have had to do this. Like, this is a perfect time. And I think you've said that, like, a couple of MPs, hopefully on both sides, have taken this as a sign that they do need to reflect inwards and start to think about why people have moved away and why people are feeling underrepresented by the parties that have traditionally been popular in Australia. I think, if anything, it's encouraging to see that voters are paying enough attention to see that we need to lift the standard.
And we were worried. We were talking about that last week and we're like, like my stance was like, everyone's so disengaged. Like, are people really listening? Doesn't matter. And it's like, it really surprised me on the weekend, the result, because it showed that people are engaged, are listening, and have kind of voted accordingly. And as we said, like, whilst the Labor Party's won this election, it's kind of, it's also like they're the least shit option in the public eye. So it's like with that growth of the kind of all these independents coming through, it's like it's a win, but it's not a real win, really, is it?
Yeah.
It's still a warning signs.
Yeah, and I hope that even though they're incumbent now, they recognise that because, you're right, like a number of people that I spoke to who ended up voting Labor said they were only doing it because they didn't want Scott Morrison to get re-elected. And I'm like, that should never be the reason why we're choosing the Prime Minister of Australia. It shouldn't be because they're the lesser of two average options. It should be because they're an inspiring leader. And if they're not, then the party as a whole needs to go into their little meeting room and have a talk about how that's a red flag. You can be elected but still see a red flag.
But there's been red flags in the party for forever, right? Like,
on both sides.
Yeah, it's just so. And it's like what we got back to. Like, imagine that world we discussed like last week, where people don't vote for parties anymore. Like, you vote for policy and ideas, and like there's no parties, and you're able to go in and select a vote based on ideology that aligns with you.
Yeah, well, that's what I did. I took that quiz, and then it
Vote compass.
And it pretty much told me like where my beliefs sat, and I acted on that.
Yeah, it's like who best represents
what I want.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and maybe it's because we sort of were posed with the choice between these two kind of underwhelming leaders. I feel like people did kind of vote on policy a bit more this year than they have in the past. I was looking at the Guardian's live election coverage, and they had sort of said that based on their, like polling of individuals, that the two major issues that people were voting on were an ICAC, and the number one issue was climate change.
Yeah. Well, bringing up the policies that Labor took to the election, which obviously they won. So climate. So Australia has committed under the Paris Agreement to reach net zero emissions by 2050. So Labor has committed to net zero 50 by 2050, and the party is also committed to reducing emissions by 43% by 2030. We also have the cost of living. So Labor supported the coalition's one-off $420 tax cut and $250 welfare payment, and to increase the childcare subsidy for the first child.
Excited about that.
Yeah, and then also reduce the price of medications, and anti-corruption was one of the
huge selling point, I think, for the Labor Party.
Uluru statement.
Oh yeah, the Uluru statement. That's follow through.
And housing.
3 phase. Yeah, and obviously trying to lift wages in line with inflation, which is like it's a hard promise to deliver on in reality. So I feel like after the weekend, the reality of it, I feel like the Liberal Party would almost be waking up breathing a sense of relief. It's like, thank fuck, like we're exhausted. Can you imagine being the governing party over the pandemic with particularly living in today's social and news cycle? I think it'd be like, thank fuck, the spotlight's off us now. Albo probably woke up with a sense of anxiety hugely, and saying, holy shit, now it's my time to shine.
It's real.
It's real.
It's happening.
You've got this record number of independents and minor parties who are there basically to hold you to account, as well as, like you said, social media. People are more plugged into the news of the day than ever before. And we've seen this really like high engagement level in young voters, which I think we haven't seen for a long time either. So, I mean, you're exactly right. I said to my partner when we first saw the results, I bet that Albo's reaction was like, fuck. Oh my God.
It's happening.
Yeah. And even now, I feel like politics and social media in the next 3 years, the way they coexist will really hit their maturity in terms of what Gen Pop expect in terms of how the content's delivered to them appropriately. I think
they'll start making TikToks.
Well, I think media right now, like it's what does it say? Social's been really impacting politics for the last 10 years, but they've only started taking it seriously in the last 5. Now, hopefully, politicians start to actually use it to its advantage and find the opportunities to really connect with their constituents there and use it for positive rather than just using it to smear each other or not taking it seriously.
Yeah, I even think having voting on a platform such as like social media, or even to be able to vote on your phone, I think would be like the way that it's going. Like instead of like having to line up and go into places. I don't know, that's just a convenience to me. And all my friends were posting like, why can't we just vote on our phone?
Well, the biggest fear factor there is corruption.
And I guess like you've got to make sure that it's secure.
Yeah.
And you've got to make sure, I mean, let's be honest, the federal government has a history of like websites crashing in critical moments.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they
I mean,
would have to do a lot of work to set
Down
that
the
up.
road, I'm sure
Yeah.
with the technology that we then have, like I think we can adapt to what we're using.
I recall that they looked at it pretty fiercely, and I think the biggest concern was, safety, like security, corruption, like just being a digital platform, how easy it is to kind of hack and play
the
with votes.
last thing you would ever want is, I mean, exactly what's going on in the USA where there's reduced confidence
in the system
and the security of it.
Clive Palmer just put $100 million into a losing campaign, won no seats. I'm sure he'd happily put $50 million into a digital hacking campaign to make sure he does win seats.
It's the only way he's going to win at this point. Back to what you said about social media, though, I will say the Greens have I think they can credit a huge portion of their success, this campaign, to reaching young people with mad meme game on social media.
Do you know why though? Because it's something people relate to in the moment right now. It's something being passionate about and hero, and also feel it's kind of like that. So it's like something you can share where you feel empowered and intelligent, and you get kudos for being part of it. Like economic policy doesn't have that fuzz to it. People can't share fiscal policy and get the social kudos like they do with environmental, like climate change policy.
But I will say, though, they've done a very good job of kind of like abbreviating their policies specifically for socials by using an emoji to show like a million affordable houses, dental and mental health into Medicare. Like they have been exceptional at, shortening all of their policies, making them palatable, making them understandable, and making them feel, accessible to a young voter, and educating people through the power of the meme.
I think part of their part of their base would be the younger, more tech savvy subsection of the community as well. Like young liberals, like I was watching did you watch Gruen, where it's pretty much like that, looking at these campaigns that the Liberal Party comes out with on social, and they're kind of like, they're probably produced by one of the young guys as part of the Young Liberal Party, and they say, which already makes them, generally a social outcast and a bit of a weirdo anyway, and then they get handballed this social policy because these 60-somethings at the top of the food chain saying, "Oh, give it to the young kid. He'll know how this campaign works." So there's this like, this is Gruen's words, not mine. Sorry. It's like, so this weirdo young liberals producing this campaign that's meant to connect with Gen Pop. And it's like they don't understand why there's a disconnect. Like, some of the young libs you meet, they may as well be Bob Catter.
Well, shall we get into some of the fun campaign moments that we've had over the time?
Yeah.
So talking about memes, Nick, you've made a few suggestions.
Well, my first suggestion is not a meme. It was the Chasers mashup song of a few Scott Morrison lines, which
was that this year?
Called, it's very recent. It got to number 1 on the charts, on the iTunes charts.
Yeah.
Wow. The song is called Forgive Me, Coal Makes Me Come. I believe that's what it's called. Liv hasn't heard this, so we're just going to do a live reaction right here.
I like the next one, like
the hole in your bucket one?
Yes.
I don't know.
Hole in your budget.
I'm sorry.
Because they've made a mashup of that now.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Which was leaked by the party, apparently. Yeah. So who was telling me that?
I believe
they
that
tried to remix it to make it hip themselves.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
play
my
this one.
theory. All right, here we go.
You and your family,
Who made this?
Chaser.
Right now, as a criminal,
Who's the Chaser?
the thing I love is corruption. Fuck you, other cunts face sea floods and the bushfires when disasters strike on, ready to go.
I mean, it is a banger.
Why? Coal makes me hard.
Coal makes me hard.
My dick is always hard.
So good.
Only getting harder.
Wow.
And so on and so forth.
Wow.
That to me was a fun. I just love a good, press conference mashup.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for it. Get on the beers, obviously, back in 2020, tried and tested the Dan Andrews mashup.
That was great. That was good during COVID.
Yeah. So, I just feel like it's a fun way to, get the message across.
Yeah.
It's how comedy should be done, opposed to later.
Yeah, it's less of a personal attack. I mean, it's obviously a joke. The Chaser is known for doing things that are provocative. That, I mean, in my humble opinion, shits all over the Hole in Your Budget remix. But you know what? I can respect
This one. It's a banger. Hang on.
Wait, what is that?
You know,
Sell $5.1 billion a year. It's a difficult scheme to manage. Oh my God. Hey, ScoMo, you're moving too fast.
What is this?
Move out in the class. Are you on contract or are you insane?
is that example?
I haven't even heard this before.
They're getting to my brain. They're getting to my brain.
That's a drop.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's example,
way
and he's
better.
ghosted it.
That's great.
That's
I love
way
that.
better than the remix that I heard.
Yeah, that'll
pretty
come up
interesting.
on the Triple J hottest 100s, I reckon.
I'll be interested
For
to see which one
sure.
wins.
No, I can put money on it. Like, for sure, it'll be on there. Top 10. Yeah.
The hottest 100 is doing anything to make headlines these days.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What's happening? It's like, and it sounds bad, but it's like
The Wiggles.
No, but it's like once they went woke, they went broke, right?
I think it's just because younger people, like, I don't know, do you listen to Triple J?
No.
No, but
See, I feel like it's our
But the turning
generation.
point was when they went all controversial.
Do you think? I don't know. I just feel like the younger generation isn't interested in the
I
radio.
listen
No,
to
I feel like it was the
Spotify.
right thing to do, but like I think,
You're
Yeah.
saying go woke, go broke.
yep.
I mean, the Greens would beg to differ with their 6 seats in Queensland.
But they're not woke; they're fake woke.
Fake woke.
Well, now the Greens, the Greens, they're sitting there too, saying, "Holy shit, fuck, we have to start developing some economic policy,
No
some
way,
fiscal stuff. Like,
mate.
we have to start costing out all this stuff. Fuck, shit."
They've got this. They're just going to
who's
tax
like-
Gina Reinhart and then they'll be sweet.
Who's the Greens candidate in Brisbane that dresses like a hobo?
Oh, no, you're talking about the councillor.
The councillor,
Jonathan Shree.
Yeah,
Love
like-
him. Obsessed.
Really?
Yeah, because he's about his shit.
About his shit.
You got to be about your shit. If you're going to be
I
a
don't-
Greens...
Sorry, about your shit.
You've got to be about your shit, you know? If you're
No,
going to
no.
be into sustainability.
You've got to.
and
So what you're saying
preach.
is, if you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. In this case, you got to. He dresses like he lives in a tree.
I mean, he might live in a tree. Do we know? Has anyone seen Jonathan Shree in a house?
He's
I
got
don't know.
neck level green. He's
I love it. I'm all about that. I have mad
Yeah.
respect for anyone that doesn't
Yeah.
shower because they want to save water.
Yeah, that's fucked. Yeah,
Oh, gosh.
you can tell when he's in what do they go when in his chamber because you can just smell the sage.
Mate, the sage is the least of your problems.
No, yeah. But even then, I saw because the Greens candidates came through successfully. He was there dressed like a hobo, and the interaction was even awkward for them.
I love him. I think he's great. He's all about it. He's, getting arrested, protesting refugee rights. He's, saving electricity. He's
See,
obviously dressing in a sustainable way because
If
he's only
he
got
was in
one
front of me
outfit.
on the Story Bridge, I would happily accelerate.
Anyway, speaking of the Greens, another campaign highlight for me was the Adam Bent Press Club Google It Mate.
Yes.
Which really, I think, captured the public sentiment of the election, which is let's stop, and also the public sentiment towards journalists in general, which hopefully we'll have time to discuss that a little bit more later. People wanted a higher ideals conversation and they were not getting it. And I think Adam Bent in that moment was a breath of fresh air.
Well, even Albo shredding that journalist at the press conference about what was it specifically on? It was about cuts to some kind of policy. I think it was maybe cuts to NDIS and health or something. And he said, we've pledged that we will spend more money on it. And the journalist said, well, can you guarantee there'll be no cuts? And he was like, I've just answered it. I've guaranteed we'll spend more money. So, He's like, what more do you want? And then he lost it. And he was just like, this kind of baited question stuff, just like paraphrase, I've answered the question. We're going to be spending more money. So, and he gave him the shredding. So I think, everyone's over the way, journalists are playing their role in this space as well.
Yeah, I think they have a lot to answer for, in terms of how disengaged people feel.
We need independent journalists. Maybe.
Yeah.
So, can we provide some feedback on the type of campaigns that we saw this year? Like, from our perspective as working in the industry, what's some feedback that we could give?
Sorry?
The campaigns that happened this year. No comment?
No, I would just say hire good consultants. Like, obviously your media advisors and whoever's advised. I know there's probably advisors now, but like, just do better. Like, it's not rocket science.
They can definitely go onto social media a lot more, like using the platforms like TikTok and maybe in the future they could start.
Mate, the Greens, I feel like, as I said earlier, I feel like the Greens can credit a significant amount of their success to doing
Socials.
exactly that.
Yeah,
Being
but just,
relatable.
I think it changes when you're actually governing too, and you don't have the time to just be fucking doing TikToks in the office. You're actually doing
You've
shit.
got staffers though.
Huh?
Like, that was part of my job when I worked in federal politics for a hot minute. It was doing socials.
Yeah.
But you have to have the sign off of the person that you're working for all of that stuff.
But how hard is it to get an approval for a TikTok and three rounds of feedback for a federal minister?
I mean, I don't think it would be if they understood the importance of it though.
Nah, they'll be so risk averse, and so because it's a new space for them, they'll be so insecure about doing it, and they'll be like, "No, fuck it."
But you can just, like, a really easy way, I think, of, I think this is why that theyvoteforyou.org went off this election as well, which is, for anyone that doesn't know, a website where you can go and see basically the voting record of every sitting member of parliament. The reason why that went off was because people wanted those policy discussions that weren't happening in traditional media. But, like, that's something you can provide on social media by just taking a clipping of one of your speeches in Parliament that's about a topical issue, whether it be the cost of childcare, whether it's, like, women's rights, whether it's Indigenous rights. You can just take that and make it into, like, a TikTok or a
that's
reel
low-hanging fruit stuff. That's, like, daily. But in terms of, like, broader campaigning, like every day at a party level, that needs to be really revisited.
Yeah. I think one thing that I would say about both of the major parties' campaigns is that they felt out of touch. I don't think people want to see that traditional campaigning shtick of, like, going into a pub and, like, having these contrived beers with a couple of constituents, going in wearing your high vis and shaking hands with some tradies.
Cooked, eh?
I don't think people see that as genuine connection anymore. And I don't really know, I'm sure brighter minds than mine could figure out what the alternative to that is. Maybe it is partly being on social media, being in a more authentic kind of context. But I just feel like that particular style of campaigning is very effective with an older demographic because that's all they've ever seen.
Yeah.
But when we have this really personal, like, you know, the parasocial relationships that we have because of social media now mean that we can smell a rat, we can tell an inauthentic exchange a mile away. And I think there was a lot of that this campaign, and that's also maybe what turned young people off the major parties.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you're not talking to me though. Like, you might be going and having this 30-minute photo op with some tradies, but you're not really talking to me.
Yeah.
But
I feel that.
But it's also, like, policy's complex. Like, how do you strip that down to give people the bites they need to understand it and then hero it as well? And I think that's what when I go back to, like, the Greens and stuff, that their policies are, well, they're easy to understand. They're not complex. They're, like, real. It's like, you know, global warming is easy to communicate.
Yeah. And it is easier for the Greens because they're not there to govern. They're there to hold the governing party to account.
Exactly. And it's always easier to, like, even from opposition, it's always easier to present a fantastic ideology while smearing what's happening in real time when you actually don't have to be accountable for everything at that point in time. Like, if you're in government, you can't promise the world. You do actually have to deliver on that because, you have to walk the walk, right? So, and that's so. It'll be interesting. The next 6 months of elbow grease, as the front page called it, will be very interesting to watch. I think government's under a lot of pressure.
They will be. And I think talking about how do you bring robust policy discussion to the masses, maybe this is where we can jump in and talk about the role that news media play in that. Because you can't just rock up to a press conference, I don't think, and start talking about policy. You have to be asked questions that the public would be asking if they were there. Like, to me, the role of a journalist is to stand in for your average mum and dad at home and ask the questions that they care about. The questions that mum and dad at home care about are not what's the current WPI, you know? And I think the problem is that everybody in the news media, well, I shouldn't say everyone. There seemed to be a significant portion of the news media who was more focused on uncovering a gaffe than they were on delivering to the punter at home the answers to the questions, the burning questions that we all have had after the hardest 3 years that some of us will ever have in their lives. And that to me is a total failure and a total disregard for the responsibility that those people have with the platform that they have.
And I was even thinking about that, seeing what was happening in Sydney and Victoria. And I was like, we've been so blessed in Queensland the last 3 years. Like, whilst, you know, COVID's been tough, we've had it pretty light here. Like, and you think about what like Melbourne and those like Sydney or Victoria have been through. Like, it's been a really tough 3 years for them. So like they wanted some answers in that process as well, and wanted some people to be held to account as well for the pain they were feeling. And none of that was there. It felt like almost a pre-fight promo. But it always does. But now it's not good enough. Like, the world's evolving. The world's evolving. Like, politics need to evolve with it. It's not just a shouting match anymore. It's just a campaign isn't just picking apart the bloke on the other side of the room or female on the other side of the room anymore. And I know last week you made that point. Is that how good would campaigning being if you could only talk about your own policies or your own party? And that was...
I think there should at least be a portion, you know, like we have advertising blackouts, that there should at least be a portion of the campaign where you can only talk about yourself. You want to talk about the policy costings.
That motherfucker. Cheeky bastard. No, it's strategic though too, but Albo's in now, so I won't disrespect our incoming PM. But how strategic but cheeky, but how dropping his policy costings the night of like campaign blackout.
Yeah. I love it.
I know. You have to respect it. He was like, this isn't going to go down well, because what was it, end up being an extra like $7.8 billion overspend?
Something like that.
But,
whoa.
Yeah.
But, okay, let me explain why I think, from a strategic level, this is why I think that was a smart idea.
But unfair from a, like...
I mean... I guess on one level, like, I can understand why you're saying it's unfair. There should always be time to discuss, you know, somebody's policy costings, because that's, you know, a huge part. We base our country's success a lot on what our economic performance is. But I would say, firstly, economic performance to me does not necessarily, especially after the 3 years that we've had, a strong economic performance is maybe not what we need to measure our success on right now.
Sure.
Maybe it should be more on like...
But we still have a right to know what their economic blueprint is.
Yeah.
Like as an Australian, I'm entitled to that information. And for anyone that doesn't know what the blackout period is, it's when pretty much all campaign ads, what is it, 72 hours out of the election?
Yeah,
you pretty much have to turn off all ads.
So it means that effectively the Liberal Party did not have time to make an ad that would have responded to the Labor Party's policy costings.
Do you not think that's smart?
It is smart.
I think it's very smart.
But for something like that, in terms of like costing policy, that's huge.
Here's my question though. Do you think if the Liberal Party and United Australia and whoever else was going to go for it, if they'd had time, do you think there would have been anything substantive thrown out? Or would it have been the same?
Yeah, absolutely would have been. Yeah, there would have been the same, in same with the typical rebuttal dialogue, sure, but they would have had the opportunity to do that, which is, I think, part of the process, currently part of that process.
Yeah, I get that. Fair's fair. But considering, like, there just seems to be I'm not saying you're wrong, but I am defending the strategy because
No, I like the strategy. I get it. If I was a media advisor, I would advise the same thing.
Yeah.
I would have said, fuck these guys. Let's drop it 5 hours before blackout, which they did.
Yeah.
Expose it warts and all.
Yeah.
Only organic media will get to digest it. Good luck to them. It's like what their strategy was, and obviously there's some level of discomfort or shame in it, because if they were proud of what they're putting out, they wouldn't have run that strategy.
See, I disagree with that. I feel like they know so well that there's like this running line that has now been proven to be a fallacy, that the Liberal Party are better economic managers. I mean, that line that I'm sure would have been bandied around had there been time for the other parties to respond. It's too much of an oversimplification of too many nuanced things, like what kind of favourable or unfavourable global influences there are, what kind of conditions you're inheriting from the previous government, things like that you cannot within, an election period, especially when the media is the way that they are and they're not asking the right what I would consider to be the right questions. Are you really going to ever be able to, allow for a right of reply that's actually going to benefit the Australian people, especially when it comes to the economy and the way that the Liberal Party and the media have historically taken Labor Party spending out of context? I don't think so.
But there's also a right of reply there too, where it's like, but for Labor post that rebuttal as well. So if they think their policy or costings have anything to stand on, they should happily, or it's part of the process, take on that criticism and then rebut it again. Like that's the whole that's the whole point.
If they were concerned about that argument, which evidently they weren't, but maybe like
I don't think I think they were concerned, so they tried to. Then they knew it was weak, so they tried to delay it intentionally. I don't think it was about. I think it was hiding.
Do you think they knew it was weak, or do you think they thought it was inconsequential?
No, they knew it was a target on the back.
I mean, they totally.
No,
I think they knew it was a target on the back. But for me, as a voter, and I guess it's because I'm a progressive voter as well, I am more than happy for us to be spending money as a country and going into debt if it is for a good reason. And I think that things like...
But who pays for that ultimately?
I mean, we do, the taxpayer, but I'm more than happy to pay for that.
And I think that's where the dialogue needs to go. It's like, well, what's the alternative? And this is the way they should be delivering their message. We're spending money because over a long period of time, this is the goal we're trying to accomplish over this extended period of time.
But what
change the way they talk. But the party, it's not the party's responsible for seeding the message initially, and then the journalists take it away.
But the journalists won't take it away. It won't come up.
But there's still a sense of power in the party.
Yeah.
Where the way you deliver your message. And it's just, I thought it was pathetic. I think like they could have delivered that costing a week earlier and put it in the context of, hey, we're spending more money because A, B, C, and D, and made it a really aspirational and empowering story opposed to hiding 5 hours out of blackout. Like it's just, I thought it was a missed opportunity because the first thing they did, that they kind of at the first glance, it's like, oh, they own their overspend. But there's some kind of, there's something heroic in that. And I feel like it was a lost opportunity for them.
That's a really good point. I think that's really interesting. Speaking of last-ditch efforts to change the game, change the tide, can we talk about the boats being intercepted from Sri Lanka?
Are there actually boats coming in from Sri Lanka?
Now, I did read, and
To be fair, a lot of people died at the hands of Labor policy last time around.
I mean, that was back in 2013, man. This is the thing.
So you just forget about... dead boat people?
I mean, when I saw that tweet come out, I was like, this is not a pertinent issue. Like, I understand that there were, there's a lot to unpack with that old policy.
Yeah, no, we can't go down that rabbit hole.
Policy, man. Like, people are in
but it's policy that ended lives.
Yeah, but climate change is also having a very real human impact. Yeah. And that's a lot more immediate.
Yeah, no, that's not more immediate. That was far more immediate because it was policy of the day with people dying on the same day. That was hectic.
The point
There
is,
were boats sinking offshore, and people could see people drowning from shore.
what is the veracity of the claims that there was actually a boat coming towards
the recent
Australia
one?
on
Yeah,
the day of,
yeah.
on the eve of the election?
Well, let's try and track this down.
I did read somebody saying that it had been teed up with the Sri Lankan government, but I don't know. I think that's a bit
yeah, that sounds.
I think that's a bit heavy.
But it was funny. It was funny where it's like, I've just got word that
I just heard.
yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, there was a lot of desperation, I think, on both sides. And I think both of those examples that we've just talked about, the budget costings drop right before blackout, and the boats just rolling into Australian waters on the eve of the election are both really good examples of that. And I think neither of those went down particularly well.
No.
Except in the meme sphere of
In the meme sphere.
social media.
And the Skrillex remix songs, which are great.
I mean, I was living for people's meme game throughout the election. I will say, maybe there's an element of social media and memes and people's ability to interact on a more humorous level that's getting people more engaged.
Yeah, I reckon.
I was having fun.
Yeah,
I think a lot of other people were too.
Is there anything else that we want to contribute to this conversation before we wrap up this?
I want to briefly talk about YouTube. Because we've been talking a lot about other socials, and I just want to briefly mention a particular example of something that.
Stop it! Yuck!
You asked me to.
This might boost our following. This might be what causes our podcast to take off. That looks really yummy. I'm excited to have one of those. But I am gonna not rant, but I do just want to bring something up, which is
The YouTube.
I just want to bring up the Friendly Geordie's corruption video on YouTube. Okay.
It must have been targeted to me.
Well, I sort of vaguely watch a bit of Friendly Geordie's because he's basically, for a bit of background for anyone that doesn't know, he is a comedian turned political commentator, very openly pro-Labor.
Who would have thought?
And I know, and he dropped on, I think it was maybe the Wednesday or the Thursday, days before the election, dropped a 20-minute video onto his YouTube channel that's got, hundreds of thousands of views, detailing basically an inventory of all of the corruption that we've seen under the Liberal government.
Sure.
So it was everything from sports rorts to people misusing private jets to, people getting their spouses jobs or,
It's called perks.
Well, it is called corruption.
No, it's not. No, it's called perks. I got to go to a corporate box on Sunday, and that's what you call work perks.
I would suggest that it happens on both sides of government.
Right. It sounds like this guy's just a sookie lala that's never been on a private jet.
What I'm interested in about this is his particular YouTube channel is going off and has been for quite some time because it's a very detailed analysis from a very biased perspective of what's going on in politics.
Sure.
And I'm interested in this longer form, we've talked about shorter form kind of content with a particular political slant, but
the short form should always lead to long form anyway. It's like a funnel to get to this page anyway, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But the interesting thing about this is that he's essentially released in the past documentary length content that is very one-sided. And I'm not saying it's problematic. I think that given the way that our media is, our mainstream media is, there's probably more of a need for independent journalists.
Sounds like a good way to go missing on a rock climbing adventure.
Well, he interestingly, like there's quite a
That got really dark.
No, it's like House of Cards, right? It's like,
well,
hope you don't
there's-
catch trains because you might find yourself in front of one.
there's quite a rabbit hole with this because he is basically the reason why John Barilaro stepped down, the Deputy Premier of New South Wales. And the AFP raided his producer's home, and like they're in court right now alleging basically that there was misconduct. It's a really interesting rabbit hole to go down when you're talking about freedom of speech versus like, you know, not that I would consider Sky News particularly sensitive to media guidelines at the moment either, but when there's the social media and digital media like YouTube is the Wild West, and we have to consider what kind of ethics are in place for all of these platforms. Because, and I'm not saying that Jordan Shanks, Friendly Geordies, is doing anything unethical. I fully support what he's doing because
But if someone starts up their own
But there's a lot of
news channel.
misinformation.
Yeah, exactly
and we
right.
saw it during COVID. There were a lot of people spreading misinformation on YouTube about like how the vaccine was going to, you know, kill your babies and stuff like
Maybe
that.
we need our own truth ministry.
I was going to say that. New episode.
I don't know about that.
Is that your required reading?
You know what? Yeah, I think Friendly Geordies on YouTube is my required reading. I will say I don't endorse everything that he says.
Take it with a grain, like a pinch of salt.
Yeah, well, like I said when we were in the first episode when I was talking about you should never get all of your political information from one place.
source.
I think this is the problem that I have with content creators like Friendly Geordies. And I'm not saying it's him that's the problem, but I think people will only go to him because it's fun, it's very digestible, it's very entertaining. But if that's the only place you're getting your news, you're not learning to think critically. And like, if we just, I know this is blowing out, but like one thing I just want to say really quickly is the thing that I enjoy about us having conversations, we're on very different sides of the political spectrum. I don't think that's any secret after this podcast. Like, you're a Liberal voter, I'm a Greens voter, but the way we talk to each other about politics is fun and respectful and enjoyable, and I feel like it's rich and, you know, sometimes full of substance.
But I get a lot of like insight from talking to you. Like I think you like I respect you, your intelligence. Like and we have different upbringings, different values, different. Our brains have formed with different exposures. But like, just it's productive. Like my outlook changes as a result of talking to you for the better. Like I think everyone should like. Conversations do change the way you think. So shutting people down because they don't agree with you, it's like, I think it's the quickest way to get dumb.
Yeah, or only listening to one person because they're reaffirming what you believe. And like, you know, with back to Friendly Geordies, just because I think that's like the strongest example of what's going on right now. Like, while I agree with some of his content, I'm getting that within the context of also watching Sky News, also reading newspapers, reading The Guardian. Like, I'm getting I'm digesting his content within a broader context of what's going on in the world. And I would encourage everybody to do the same with whatever news you're digesting, whoever you're talking to in your life. Just make sure that you're getting like a broad spectrum of ideals because and I think there's an appetite for that. Honestly, I thought today we were going to have a really different conversation. I really did. I thought we were going to.
I'd had to.
No, I think
not between us.
I think the two major parties, but I thought there was going to come closer. Even last week, I was saying I think there might be a similar outcome to last time. But the fact that there's been like visible kind of dissatisfaction with the two major parties, and for me, it's exciting because it shows that there's going to be like. There's like something's going to refresh. Yeah, I mean it needs it. Parliament House needs a refresh.
Yeah, there's an appetite for something better. There's an appetite for new voices, diverse voices.
It's all very positive.
Yeah, it is. It's a really it's like it's going down a more positive path.
Yeah,
where we could have another 10 years of what we've just had.
Yeah, and this is a good thing, and I hope that we, with all of these new diverse voices in Parliament, all these new independents, all of these minor parties, we see a broader vision of what Australians look like.
Yeah.
Because there hasn't been that in the past. And hopefully hearing from people of all different backgrounds is going to make all of us more open-minded, which can only be a good thing.
I agree with that.
We've got to finish on something that's fun.
Awesome. No, we're going to finish with our required reading. Required reading. Which is what we do at the end of every episode.
Oh, yes.
So something that we can recommend. It can be a show. It can be a YouTube channel. It can be a book. What do you got, Ty?
I've got the Call Her Daddy podcast with Christine Quinn.
That's mine.
What are you talking about?
It literally says live. Call
What are
Her
you talking
Daddy
about?
podcast.
No. Yeah, that was really good. So, interesting fact.
Interesting fact. Are you related?
No, so I watched that. I'm actually really surprised with how she's quite intelligent. Everything's just a role. Like
You haven't watched this, have you?
No.
No, I haven't.
So
No.
on Selling Sunset, she's just what do they call her again? The
villain.
The villain. But like she speaks really well. So, like almost like really intelligent.
Yeah.
It's all a big act to essentially cement her character and make sure she's remembered and
Yeah,
and-
exactly.
yeah.
She's pretty much like
she's catfished a whole audience. It's
yeah,
proper
but
catfish.
but she knows that.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm getting paid to do that. Like it's TV. Like
She's like, this ain't
that's-
reality TV. It's like I'm acting. It's
She's
yeah.
like,
I have respect for that.
Yeah.
If you don't know that reality TV is produced by now, then there's no hope for you.
and that's what she's saying as well, is
Yeah, she's
because
like, you're dumb enough to- yeah.
everyone has watched it and has gone, oh, like she's the villain, like she's so horrible, like this, and this. And she's like, yeah, my character is, but that's TV.
See, look, remember at one, I was like, they're all idiots. I hated them. And then now for her, it's like I like her now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's just playing a role. Like she catfished me. I was engaged with hatred for this villain. Now I'm like, she catfished the shit out of me. I love
I
it.
feel like the stupid one because she
Yeah.
like goes like, of course, like why wouldn't I do that? And I'm like, you're
So we're-
so right.
Yeah.
Like,
She's the memorable one.
yeah, but like
We're
she
idiots.
does out like the editing stuff that they do and like how it's all so fake and how the producer.
But she takes it with a grain of salt as well. She's like, well,
well,
that's
the
what I signed up
producer
for too.
it has also
Adam Levine. He's
Yeah.
getting investigated
Adam
for.
Levine, isn't that the singer?
Oh, what's his name? Adam Devine. Divine. Whatever the fuck his name is.
Whatever his name
But he's
is.
getting investigated for like sexual harassment or some kind of bullying.
but she outed
In Hollywood?
that.
Yeah, I
Shocker.
think, I think he fed a
said all
pony
of
without
that.
asking or something.
Yeah, and then there was something like she outed like the pay difference, and anyways, it was just really, she just said everything. It was really good, yeah. But she was just really wholesome as well, and there was just like
Wholesome, yeah.
she's just a person, like she's just a girl at the end of the day,
And
like, she's human.
And she, anyone looking to go into sugar daddy, she said, yeah, do it.
Yeah, she was fully encouraging it.
Yeah.
And also she's
Entrepreneurial, we
She's
love that.
opened her own brokerage, which is called Real Open, and it's where you can buy houses with crypto.
Okay, I don't know about that, but that's probably
But
another
anyways,
podcast topic for
her
another
husband
time.
is a crypto guy.
Of course he is.
Anyways, but yeah, that was both of our required readings then. And so Call Her Daddy is only found on Spotify though, so Spotify exclusive.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can't find it on YouTube or anything anymore.
No, you got to watch it. Oh, well, on your
You can
phone
watch
and
it, yeah, or
Spotify.
listen to it, yeah.
I watched it at 4:30 in the morning in the gym car park.
Nice. I'm gonna listen to it on the way home. This
Yeah,
afternoon.
it was
Thanks, guys.
just a good.
I don't know.
listen.
You need to reduce your screen time, I reckon.
Yeah. Don't play the video, just play the audio while you're
I'll have to just
driving.
watch it on Spotify and lock my phone.
Yeah.
Well, my required reading is election results. Go and look at who's your federal MP.
Yes, Mum.
because the games have changed a little bit. A few people have switched up. And get your news from a number of different sources.
Love
I
it.
think that's really important too.
I think-
Always. Now give me a cookie.
Awesome. Great job, guys.
All right, that's a wrap.
Perfect. See you next week.
You feel alive, let's hit the dance floor. Don't work too hard, my break a backbone. Return of the Mac, the king is back though. Corvette and cash, I never like those.
Thanks for listening, guys. If you love this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and make sure you follow us on socials to stay up to date with all the weird and wacky things we get up to. You can find us on Instagram at No Brilliant Jerks Podcast or Sunnydale Studios, or you can even find us on our agency Insta at KKO Agency. And if you'd like to put a face to a name, you can watch all of our podcast recordings on our YouTube at Sunnydale Studios. Now, we'll pop up all our social handles and links discussed in today's episodes in our show notes below. Feel free to also email us with your own dopes and nopes and we'll share them on the podcast. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. We shall be in your ear holes again next Wednesday.
Okay, bye.
This is a production of Sanidale Studios.